Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Iland, and thank you so much for coming to my session today. I'm very pleased to announce to you I recently became for the very first time, I became an author. It's so exciting, you kind of trip over your words on saying something like it. My very first book, some of you have seen it and it's going around the audience here, Come to Life, Your Guide to Self-Discovery. Because young people such as myself with autism go through a lot of struggles in their life. And my mother and I decided to write a book about what we've learned along the way. And we like to call it a prequel to transition. I'll explain what that means in a moment. But to give you some context, I am a certified public accountant, and I left that career altogether about 2 years ago because I wanted to make a difference in people's personal lives. And I left behind that job with benefits and a consistent paycheck, the whole 9 yards, because I wanted to tell my story and really help all of you bring out the best in yourselves and the young people in your lives. Now I'm going to be moving around a little bit, so rather than bolting myself to the lectern here. Here's the objectives of today's session. We're going to be talking about why the book was written, because I imagine many of you have young people in your lives. You've sat them down at a transition table, asked them, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And the answers tend to be, I don't know. So this is going to help them find some answers to those questions, and you can help guide them to those answers. But we're going to go over why the book was written, understanding how the process of self-discovery in young people is essential in transition planning for students with autism. And I'll illustrate this with a mantra that I created. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. We're also going to look at current outcomes and evidence-based predictors of post-secondary success for students with autism. And finally, explore ways to improve transition planning by including predictor activities. Before we get into the presentation, I'm going to break the ice a little bit, share a little talent with you. I have a talent for numbers, that's why I wanted to become a CPA. I'm really good with math, and I have this little talent. I call it the number letter talent. There are 26 letters in the alphabet. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. What I can do is take words, like people's names for instance, give their letters the numerical value, and add them up as quick as a calculator. So let's say the name Tom. T is 20, O is 15, and M is 13. You add these up and you get 48. So I can do that really, really quickly. Would anybody like to volunteer their name? You in the back.
Zakia.
How do you spell it?
C-A-K-I-Y-A.
50. Well, you spelled it slowly, so I'm kind of calculating in my mind, but the spelling is key, so if people do whip out their calculators and start adding it up themselves, you'll find I'm usually right. Anyone else want to give their name and how it's spelled? You, ma'am.
Cordelia. C-O-R-D-E-L-I-A.
67. And you're all going very slowly. If you want to go a little bit faster, you can. We'll take one more. You.
Hortensia.
Spelling?
Hortensia.
93. And I memorized supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's 379. But as you can see, I've gotten your attention, and hopefully I'll keep it throughout the remainder of this presentation. But each and every one of your young people in your lives has something unique and special that they can offer and improve the lives for themselves and those around them. So we're going to focus on bringing out the best in ourselves and the young people in our lives. So bring you into the mantra that I created. This is my little dog Bridget, little wiener dog, my pride and joy. If you check out my blog at thomasiland.com, you'll see I have a blog, 7 friendship skills I learned from my dog. Because they're so precious and they're like children to some people, and you can really learn a lot in personal skills from having a dog. And I put that up on my blog. But this is a mantra that young people really need to know. And I thought this myself when my mother asked, if you could tell people with autism or any disability one thing, what would it be? And I responded, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. This is the journey to self-discovery that a lot of young people need to go through if they're going to get the answers to those questions to take their life to the next level. And young people go through this, they'll become aware of their own strengths and challenges. That's the know yourself portion of the mantra. Analyze where you are doing well and where you can improve, not weaknesses, but rather opportunities for improvement. So it's onward, upward movement, constant and never-ending improvement, as Tony Robbins would say. Feeling good about who they are, because I know hearing about a diagnosis or that you have it can be very, very devastating at first. When I was young, my mother told me that I was diagnosed with autism. I was like, oh, I don't want to have autism. I want to be like everybody else. After crying in my room for about an hour, I came back and said, you know, Mom, this explains a lot. And it really did, because at least I had some answers. So many people go their whole lives in the dark, knowing there's something off or different about them, but they can't really put their finger on it, or nobody tells them what it is, and even if they know what it is. And we have goodie bags for you after the session here. Tom's Tips for Telling is something that I offer you. It's a card in that goodie bag. And accepting themselves and their disability, and that it's okay to have a disorder. You are still going to be loved, or at least it starts in the family, and my family loved me unconditionally and assured me of that from the get-go. And I mentioned the dog blog. Dogs really love you unconditionally, like Bridget's my world and I'm her world. Being accepted for you rather than being something that you're not. But on that note, learning to speak up for yourselves, because as you heard in the keynote this morning, a lot of people with autism may not seek clarification if they're unsure or didn't understand something that was said. So they go through life with the wrong impression or not having a clue of how to get the understanding that they need. So know yourself, love yourself, be yourself will help young people do that. Focusing on the know yourself aspect, understanding yourself as a person first, that you are unique, that you are special. You don't have to be like everybody else. It would be a boring world if we were all the same after all. But how your disability affects you, positively and constructively. Really taking a deep look inside yourself so that you can see where your strengths lie and where you can improve. Because if you just focus on one or the other, then if you focus just on strengths, those opportunities for improvement will never get addressed, and you might do things you shouldn't for a good portion of your life. If you focus only on those opportunities without seeing where you're good at, that could hurt your self-esteem, or that could, you might say, am I good at anything? Think of it as fuel in a car, the knowledge being your fuel. Like you're sitting there, the engine's running, and the knowledge is kind of going out the exhaust pipe, but it's whether you apply that knowledge, and make sure you release that parking brake first. You apply that knowledge, put your foot on the gas pedal, then you start to drive your life forward. And you'll need more and more information, more and more fuel to keep the car going, engine running. So like, I need more information about going to college. Fill her up. I want more information about finding a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Get some information on that, fill her up and apply. I want to move out of my parents' house one day. Fill her up. And this keeps going and going. As far as we know, cars, except for those fuel-efficient vehicles or those that you don't have to fill up as much, cars will always need fuel, and we will always need knowledge as human beings to keep our lives going. But knowing how your disability affects you positively and constructively is the beginning of all wisdom. Once you know that information, you move on to loving yourself, accepting yourself regardless of your disability, warts and all, as you might have heard, because you are not broken even if you have a diagnosis. It can be difficult to accept at first, but it's really better out than in. Telling the child about the disability when they are ready and how it affects them. It can be a great disservice if you withhold that information from somebody thinking it's going to cause them to break down or that they won't understand. They have to understand themselves first. And so many people are sitting back just waiting to be loved and accepted. But what they may not see is that once you love yourself, others will love you in return. If anybody here is a fan of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? Amen. Getting back to our car example, not loving yourself, being stuck on the past, regrets and whatnot, that's like driving forward while looking in the rearview mirror the entire time. Oh, I'm so angry all the time. I wish I could go back and change the past. And then you start to weave out of your lane a little bit, starting really to lose focus. Man, I wish life was different. And then all of a sudden, boom! You lose sight of what's right in front of you. That's why it's important to learn from the past, live in the present, and look towards the future. Because when you're stuck in the past, worrying about what's already been, you start to lose sight of what's happening here and now. And that's going to hurt your future. So accepting your disability, realizing it's okay, and being able to move forward rather than looking back all the time, that's loving yourself. And also the idea of putting up personal boundaries. For a long time, I was a yes man. I wanted to please others, be accepted, make friends. Sometimes I would say yes when I really wanted to say no. And I imagine lots of young people also want to be really accepted and might do anything, sometimes desperately, to get it. When I give talks to young high school students, I say, watch out for the people that say, I'll be your friend if, or if you do this, I'll be your friend, or if you do this for me, I'll pay you money or give you a gift card or something. And getting back to the dog vlog and unconditional love, that if, that's not a real friend. That's not unconditional love. Look for people that like and love you for you. Because once you do that, you can start to become your best self. I say your best self because there's being yourself. You still get to be you at the core, but being open to change, getting outside your comfort zone, that's where the real magic's going to happen. But I know a lot of our young people are very resistant to change. They fear it. They avoid it like the plague. And I was no different. I also liked routines and predictable, constant things, until I realized that the only constant, predictable, ongoing thing in all of our lives is change. It's going to happen whether I want to or not, and whether I like it or not. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, 5 months ago, or even 5 minutes ago. Change is happening all around us. Be open to it. Think how it could work to your advantage, how it could help you evolve, take your life to the next level, really bring out your best self. Getting back to our car example, has anyone really driven a really old clunker? It's got like hundreds of thousands of miles on it, and it gets harder and harder to drive, and you're still moving forward, but getting slower and slower. Then they stop making parts for the car. Do you need a new car? No, I'm good. It gets harder and harder to maintain. And then before you know it, you break down. How can you avoid this? See what else is out there for you. Find out what other cars people are driving. Maybe take one for a test drive. See how it feels. Not only do you feel better and you look good driving in the new car, but you get to enjoy the ride. That's being your best self. So we can tell our young people that you have their best interests at hand. You're not looking to change them. You're looking to help them become their best selves. And that they can become their best selves if they are open to the suggestions, the opinions, and the consideration of others, so that they can make the best educated decision possible and live the life that they want. Yes, you have good intentions, as well you should. You want them to have a good life, but you can't live their life for them. They're the ones that have to do it. Get in that driver's seat eventually and drive their life forward to become their best selves. Opening yourself up and being willing and able to learn and grow to take your life to the next level. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. And who doesn't want these 4 items and these 4 characteristics and more for their young people? This is what you will get out of know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Being aware, self-aware of your disability, how it affects you, positively, constructively, and being accepting of yourself first and foremost. And that's going to help your self-esteem, because once you feel better about yourself, you've accepted the good and the bad, but you're still moving forward rather than just being stuck all the time. And being able to advocate for yourself. Just say when you need help. What kind of accommodations do you need and why? Where can I find this help? That's all discussed and come to life, and it's what our young people need to know if they want to move forward. Again, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. That is the mantra that I live by to this day.